Hello class, today we're going to look at simplifying rational expressions. Now if you remember rational expressions, these are expressions with x's and y's and things like that look like fractions. Specifically, these are expressions where we have the variable in the denominator. And since these look like fractions, they actually act just like fractions. We simplify them the exact same way we do fractions. For example, so if we have AC divided by BC, well, they both have a factor of C in them, so that C just factors out, and we're just left with A over B, rather. Now, this is, of course, assuming that B and C don't equal 0, because remember, you cannot divide by 0. All right. So if this was a fraction, you'd have 15 over 65. Well, you factor those out. 15 is 3 times 5. 65 is 13 times 5. They have this common factor of 5, so you factor that out, and it's just left with 3 over 13, right? Well, with a rational expression, you do the same thing. Here we have 4 times x plus 3 over x plus 3 times x plus 3. They both have a factor of x plus 3, so you can factor those out, and it just leaves you with 4 over x plus 3. All right? It's just taking out the common factors. That's all it is, just like with fractions. All right? You've been doing that since elementary school sometime. Now, admittedly, this is more complicated than what you did in elementary school because it's got variables in it, but that's all right. So what we have here, we have x squared minus 4x minus 12 over x squared minus 4. Now, looking at this, you can't just take out the x squares. You can't just take out the 4's because these aren't factors. These are being added or subtracted, things like that. Factors, it has to be multiplied. So what we have to do is we have to factor out both of these. All right. So we factor the numerator, we get x plus 2 times x minus 6. We factor the denominator, we get x plus 2 times x minus 2. All right. Now, looking at our factors, do they have anything in common? Hey, yeah, right there. They both have an x plus 2. So we can factor that out. It cancels because x plus 2 divided by x plus 2 is 1. Right? And 1 times anything doesn't change it, so we don't need it. It just leaves us with x minus 6 over x minus 2, provided that x does not equal negative 2. Now, why do we have to say this whole doesn't equal negative 2 stuff? Well, if you remember, this is supposed to be a simplified form of the original, right? And if we look at the graph on this one, I want this one right here. Let's move this over. There we go. Turn on my calculator. Okay, so you see I have these in here. The simplified version is the red one. The original version is the blue one. So let's take a look at this graph. You can do it in the simplified version first. So here's the simplified expression. And here is the original expression. And you'll notice they match up everywhere, right? Exact same thing, except if you look closely, I've got a little bit of red poking through right there. I've got this one point on the simplified version that's not on the original. And you can see it in the table as well. We go to the table right there. You see that at negative 2, I get an answer in my simplified version, but in the original version, I've got an error. And that's no good. We want the simplified version to be exactly the same as the original version, just a little bit simpler math, but it still should give us all the same answers, right? And this one doesn't do that. And the reason for that is because in our original expression, this negative 2 would make this equal 0, right? Because negative 2 squared is positive 4 minus 4 is 0. But when I factor that out, if I plug a negative 2 in here, that's just negative 2 minus 2, which is negative 4. It's not 0, so it's fine. You get an answer. But it doesn't work in the original, so you have to say it can't work in our simplified form either. So all you do is you just take whatever it is that you canceled out and went away, and you set that equal to 0. Now, we don't have to say that the x minus 2 can't equal 0, because that's still in the simplified form. It doesn't work in the original, and it doesn't work in the simplified form because it's still in the simplified form. So we don't have to make an extra statement about that. We just had to make a statement about this part that we took out. So what I want you to do, I want you to pause the video and work out these for you. I just want you to simplify the equations. Then I want you to come back and check your work. Now make sure you mark what any extra things that are being excluded from the original. All right. So pause the video, work these out, then come back. All right, let's check your work. Number 1 should have had 2 over x plus 3, where x doesn't equal -1. Number 2, you should have had 1 over x minus 4, where x does not equal -4. Number 3, yeah, it's already simplified. Number 4, you should have ended up with x plus 1 over x plus 2, where x cannot equal 3. If you got those, great, you're awesome. If not, let's take a look. So number 1 is already factored for us. We don't have to factor it out. And we're going to see, oh, we've got x plus 1 on the numerator, we've got x plus 1 on the denominator. We can cancel this out. We don't need them. That just leaves us with the 2 over the x plus 3. Now, we took this out, right? So we've got to make sure that we say that this still doesn't equal 0. So x plus 1 can't equal 0, so x can't equal -1. We've got to include that one because that's the one we took out. Number 2, the denominator is not factored, so we need to factor that. Well, that's the difference of squares, x squared minus 16, so that's x plus 4, x minus 4. And now you see they both have an x plus 4, so we can take those out. Now, we can't leave the top empty, right? We can't just put a 0 there because there is stuff there, so it's not 0. Well, basically what we're doing is we're dividing by x plus 4, numerator and denominator, and x plus 4 divided by x plus 4 is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. So that's why you have 1 over x minus 4. Now, we did take out the x plus 4, so we've got to take care of this not equaling 0. So that equals 0 when x is -4, so x can't equal -4. Number 3, yeah, there's no x's in the numerator, there's no 4's in the denominator, it's already simplified. 4 is divisible by 2, but then notice this 2 is being added, it is not being multiplied. So this 2 is not a factor, so it can't be factored out and simplified. Number 4, neither numerator or denominator are already simplified, factored, so we've got to factor them both. So it takes a little bit more work, but it's still not too bad. That factors as x minus 3 times x plus 1, and x plus 2 times x minus 3. So notice they both have an x minus 3, so those get canceled out. We're going to factor them, and that leaves us with x plus 1 over x plus 2. Now we did take stuff out, so we got to make sure that this doesn't equal 0. So x minus 3 equals 0 when x equals 3, so x can't equal 3. All right? And that is simplifying rational expressions. That's all there is to it, really. I hope that helped. The important thing there, make sure that you put these exclusions on there. Whatever you factor out, you have to account for that and saying that that cannot equal 0. All right? Hopefully that helps. Found it useful, and I'll see you next time.